Hare Krishna, warm welcome to everyone for today's program. We are we're all very uh, blessed and fortunate to have a, a guest with us. Please help me welcome Sri Sadananda Das. Sadananda Prabhu, he did his undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from NIT Allahabad, and then after that he did his MBA from SP Jain Institute of Management in Mumbai, India. And he has a work experience of about 10 years in the corporate world in various management positions. And during his stint of 4 years as a lead consultant at Infosys, he took keen interest in the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And eventually he joined ISKCON Bangalore in 2011 and was trained in the philosophy and practice of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Srimad Bhagavatam. He is an initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and while in ISKCON Bangalore, he actively counseled hundreds of students and young IT engineers in professional, personal life balance, peer pressure, stress management, life enrichment programs, meditation techniques, yoga for happiness, all on the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Since August of 2016, Prabhu is located in Boston. And as a Hindu chaplain of MIT Boston, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Boston, Prabhu counsels students, university faculty, and young families and helps them as a spiritual guide. He also conducts online courses on meditation and Vedic literature for students and young people from around the world. He also spends considerable time of his day in spiritual practices, mantra meditation, self-study, and distance study of Vedic literatures with his seniors in ISKCON Bangalore. Sadananda Prabhu, Hare Krishna, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, bro. The pleasure is all mine.
So before we proceed to hear auspicious words from Sadananda Prabhu, let us invoke the blessings of Guru Gauranga and Lord Narasimhadev by offering some prayers. Please join me as I sing the Narasimha Kirtan and request Mataji to share the screen as we go. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारी
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा।
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय
प्रहलाद लाद दायिने
प्रह्लाद नाथ दायिने
हिरण्यकशिपोर्वक्षः श्रीलटङ्कानखालाये इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा
नरसिंहा परत नरसिंहा
इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा
एक नरसिंहा परत नरसिंहा
यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा
यत यत यामि तत नरसिंहा
बहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा
हे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा
बहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा
हे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा
बहे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा
हे नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा
नरसिंहा मदिं शरणं प्रपदे
नरसिंहा मदेव शरणं प्रपदे
नरसिंहा मदिं शरणं प्रपदे
नरसिंहा मदेव शरणं प्रपदे
तव कर कमलवरे नखं अद्भुत शृङ्गां गलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जय Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare.
Abhakara Kamalavare Natha Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubhinga Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare.
Jaya Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jai Prahlad Narsimha, Prahlad Narsimha, Prahlad Narsimha, Jaya Prahlad Narsimha.
Jaya Prahlad Narasimha Prahlad Narasimha Prahlad Narasimha Jaya Prahlad Narasimha
Jaya Bhakta Vatsala, Jaya Narahari, Bhakta Vatsala, Jaya Narahari.
Jaya Bhakta Vatsala Jaya Narahari Bhakta Vatsala Jaya Narahari
Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj.
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Prabhupada, Gurudev, Prabhupada. विघ्न विनाश नरसिंह भगवान की, भक्तराज प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदी। Yes, Prabhu. Over to you, Sadanand Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for inviting me. And very happy to be part of this Sangha, this association. Before I start, I just wrote this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says, Vaishnava Swabhavai Tarite Pamar Nija Karya Nahi Tabu. So this verse, basically spoken by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, says, Vaishnava Swabhavai Tarite Pamar. Actually, the nature of a Vaishnava is he's very merciful. And when a person comes in touch with a Vaishnava, even if he is the lowest, even if he is he's a farmer, he's struggling in this material world, but by the association of a Vaishnava, he becomes elevated to the higher position. The reason being, the Vaishnava doesn't carry anything in his heart except for seeing how others can get benefited, can get the maximum benefits in this material world by taking to this process of devotion. And I must say that you all are very fortunate to have Kalakanta Prabhu as your guide. Prabhu has been in this movement for a very long time, very inspiring to have his association. And I'm very grateful that Prabhu has invited me for this Sangha. So the time that we have together, I know we have, the time is always very precious, and people are thinking how they can, manage their time well. Interestingly, before even we start, this is just one tidbit which I thought I should share. Sometimes, we have different apps that we try to see how I can, plan my day in a better way, put as many things as possible and have nice schedule and see if I'm doing all those things. And there are so many productivity apps which are very popular these days. And I keep sharing this with the students at MIT as well. Very little we realize the time is not just spent by the activities that we do, it is also spent, the time is also spent by the thinking of ours. Sometimes if our mind is disturbed, no matter how hard I'm trying to concentrate, even if I'm allocating 1 hour for a particular activity, because of the mind not being concentrated, not being in my control, the output doesn't come. And we don't realize this fact because this is very subtle. We think that the time is only taken by the activity. It's not true. It is also taken by our thinking. So it is very important in our day-to-day busy, active life to take out some time and spend in hearing this wonderful message of Krishna, the Supreme Lord himself, available to us in the form of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is so powerful, so relevant, and so practical for all of us. Even though we are here in this jet age, the so-called advanced age where we have everything in our fingertips, still this information of Bhagavad Gita is extremely relevant for us. The reason being, Krishna and Krishna's instructions, they are non-different. And these are spiritual sound vibrations which are available. Like, for example, even if we are sitting at our own house in our own comfortable zone, we are able to access some sound by tuning into certain frequencies. These are the electromagnetic waves, like we have UHF or VHF. So we have a transistor or a radio or a TV, they have different frequencies. And if we properly if we channel those frequencies, we can hear that sound. We can get it even though we are sitting here at our own places. Similarly, the spiritual sound vibration is present in the ether. If we have the right antenna, and the antenna is actually our hearing process, if we hear it with attention, with reverence, then in our heart, the spiritual world can manifest. It can actually transform us. Even though we are living in this material world, it can transform us provided we use the right antenna to access this information which is available in the form of this Bhagavad Gita. So let me, without further ado, just share a quick PPT that I have made. Please let me know if my screen is visible.
Yes, bro, it's visible. Yes.
Right. So this is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of Worldwide Hare Krishna Movement. Before we proceed, let's have some prayers of invocation. If you are already familiar, you can chant along with me in mute. If you don't know, just hold your hands and meditate on this sound. These are very powerful sound vibrations. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the verse that I have been asked to speak on is from the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, from 15th till 19th verse. So we will read the 15th verse. I will chant the verse, and I would ask if you can repeat after me. That will be nice. So let me chant first. I'll chant 3 times so that you get familiar with the verse and you can chant. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Pondram Dadmau Mahasankham Bhima Karma Brikodaraha. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Pondram Dadmau Mahasankham Bhima Karma Brikodaraha. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Pondram Dadmau Mahasankham Bhima Karma Brikodaraha. Any volunteer for chanting?
Shall I try, Prabhuji?
Please, Miss.
Panchajanya Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjaya Pondram Dadmo Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrakodaraha.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I'll try now. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Pondram Dadmo Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha.
Yes. Very nice. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Pondram Dadmau Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha.
Wonderful.
May,
Everyone,
may I, yeah,
please go
may I
ahead.
try? Yeah. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjaya Pondram Datpo Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrikodara.
So let us try to understand this verse and what Krishna is telling in this and what's going on in this verse. So the synonyms of this verse are Panchajanyam, the conchshell named Panchajanya, Hrishikesha, Hrishikesha, Krishna, the Lord who directs the senses of the devotees. Devadattam, the conchshell named Devadatta. Dhananjaya, Arjuna, the winner of wealth. Pondram, the conch named Pondra. Dadmo, blue. Mahasankham, the terrific concept. Bhima Karma, one who performs Herculean tasks. Brika Udaraha, the voracious eater, Bhima. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Krishna blew his conchshell called Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta. And Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific concept called Pondra. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna is referred to as Hrishikesha in this verse because he is the owner of all senses. The living entities are part and parcel of him, and therefore the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. The impersonalists cannot account for the senses of the living entities, and therefore they are always anxious to describe all living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses, but he directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity. And in the case of a pure devotee, he directly controls the senses. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name of Hrishikesha. The Lord has different names according to his different activities. For example, his name is Madhusudana because he killed the demon of the name Madhu. His name is Govinda because he gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. His name is Vasudeva because he appeared as the son of Vasudeva. His name is Devaki Nandana because he accepted Devaki as his mother. His name is Yashodanandana because he awarded his childhood pastimes to Yashoda at Vrindavan. His name is Parthasarathi because he worked as charioteer of his friend Arjuna. Similarly, his name is Hrishikesha because he gave direction to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya in this verse because he helped his elder brother in fetching wealth when it was required by the king to make expenditures for different sacrifices. Similarly, Bhima is known as Vrikodara because he could eat as voraciously as he could perform Herculean tasks, such as killing the demon Hidimba. So the particular types of conchshell blown by the different personalities on the side of the Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits, nor the presence of Lord Krishna, the supreme director, nor that of the goddess of fortune. So they were predestined to lose the battle, and that was the message announced by the sounds of the conchshells. Thus ends the wonderful Bhaktivedanta purport. So, very interesting chapter. Sometimes people, when they study Bhagavad Gita, sometimes they tend to ignore the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. They think first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna, mind you, doesn't speak a single verse in this particular chapter, not even one verse. He begins to speak only in the second chapter. So sometimes people think this chapter is not important because this is titled as Arjuna Visada Yoga, or observing the armies in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. What is it relevant? How is it relevant for me? I want to give you a very simple example. When I was a student and I was studying, I did my engineering, and I remember sometimes, during the exams, when we try to solve a problem, and you go on putting some values based on the problems that is stated. There's a formula which is there. Usually I put it in a box, like let's say a plus b whole square is equal to a square plus b square plus 2ab. But for some reason, if the formula is wrong, instead of a square plus b square plus 2ab, if I write minus 2ab and I go on adding different values very calculatively, very precisely, if I do the calculation and see if I did any mistake or not, and try to do this multiple times using my calculator or whatever it is. I'm just giving a simple example. The answer, the result is always going to be wrong. So it is very important to understand the problem. If the problem understanding is not clear, the appreciation for the solution will not be there. And the problem is so nicely articulated in this chapter, where Arjuna is faced with this existential crisis, which can happen to any one of us. Need not be, the battlefield is just a context where Arjuna is faced to have this battle with his own kinsman, and he is puzzled whether he should do that or not. And as we move on in this chapter, we will see how those doubts are so relevant to each one of us in our own life, and how each one of us also encounter those problems and challenges. And that is why the instruction given by Krishna in second chapter onwards becomes so relevant, so important. What we will do is, because usually if my passion and my I would say my interest has been studying Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, very scrutinizing. And being part of this monastery, we go through this rigorous training of understanding this Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam from different angles. And mind you, and believe me, it can give you so much of solace, spiritual strength, and you can relish it so much. Because each one of us, we are looking for those kind of information. Those, there is an innate tendency to know about the unknown, to find out what's going on, what's the mystery all about. And These two books, especially Bhagavad Gita, which is directly spoken by the Lord, and Bhagavatam, which is all about the Supreme Lord and his activities, are just simply wonderful, just amazing. If you don't believe my words, I want to tell you one verse, very, very beautiful verse from Bhagavatam. Just, to know the potency and the power and the beauty of spending your valuable time in understanding this Krishna Katha. It is given in one verse in Bhagavatam. This verse is in the 12th canto, 12th chapter, 50th verse. 12, 12, 50. It's not so difficult to remember. 12th canto is the last canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the chapter is 12.12, and the verse number is 50. So the verse actually goes like this. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam Tadeva sasvan manaso mahotsavam Tadeva sokarnavasasanam nirnam Yadottama shloka yasho nugiyate. What happens is when we come together and when we hear Krishna's glories or his instructions, Uttama shloka, another name of the Lord, Uttama shloka yasho anugiyate, when we sing, when we discuss, when we chant, when we remember, when we hear, what happens, this verse talks about, actually says that this Krishna Katha, or these activities and the instructions and the pastimes of the Lord are ramyam, tadeva ramyam, it's very attractive. Ruchiram, it is very palatable. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam, it is ever fresh, it's always new, no matter how many times you have heard, no matter how many times you have you've gone through or you've seen, still there is something new. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam Tadeva saswan manaso mahotsavam. Actually, it is a festival for our mind. Mahautsavam, it's a great festival. Tadeva saswan, eternally it is a festival for us. Tadeva sokara navasoshanam nirnam. When our mind, sokara nava, it's, mind is, filled with this miseries. Soka arnava. Arnava is an ocean of misery. These words, when we hear them, these instructions, these glories, when we hear, which is ramyam, ruchiram, navam navam, it actually dries up the ocean of miseries. Sokarnava soshanam nrinam, tadeva soka karnava soshanam nrinam. So that's the beauty and the power of hearing Krishna Katha and understanding this. Now, the words that we spoke, I want to give you a visual illustration of what we just discussed, what we spoke. Because the context is always important. As I said, without context, the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, it will just fall apart. Now see this picture. Imagine, if somebody has taken a camera and taken a snap like this. Probably it is impossible, because this picture, if you see minutely, has got 64 crores Kshatriyas. 64 crores. That was the total number of people who were present in this battlefield. 11 Aksohini Sanyas on the side of the Kauravas and 7 on the side of Pandavas. Right? So imagine if there is a movie, there is a Hollywood movie or there is a Bollywood movie or something like that which is made on this first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The first scene will be something like this. One blind king seated in Hastinapur in Delhi, and he's asking his minister, his secretary, Sanjay, Dhritarashtra Vacha, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamakaha Pandavas Chaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. So his inquiry is to his minister that my sons and the sons of Pandu, being desirous of fighting, have assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is also Dharma Kshetra. What did they do? This is how, the camera is showing that, it's a palace and this old, blind, dependent king on his secretary asking this inquiry, and suddenly the camera zooms out and it goes to Kurukshetra, which is far from Hastinapur. And it shows the battlefield where all these armies are arranged. They are on either side, either on the side of the Kauravas or on the side of the Pandavas. And it focuses on Duryodhan, who's talking to his guru, and he's saying, he is actually shocked. He's seeing that, so many soldiers from Pandava sides have assembled, and he's telling, the same disciple of yours whom you had taught the military art has created this wonderful phalanx on the Pandava side. He's referring to Drishtadimna. And then he goes to Bhismadev to encourage him and to say that, our side is protected by you, so we are we are indefeatable, and the side which is protected by Bhima is not so great, and all those things. He's blah blah blah. He's talking so many things. Actually, the Kshatriyas don't talk so much. In the battlefield, they are chivalrous, and they just go for their warmongers, and they just go for fighting. So to give consolation, solace, to give pleasure to Duryodhan, the grandsire of Kauravas, the Kuru dynasty, the oldest man who was present there, Bhismadev, he blew his concert to give pleasure to Duryodhan. Don't worry, we are all here. We will take care of it. And then in the previous verse, the last week that probably you would have seen, the 14th verse, is actually the first time the hero of this, the movie, Krishna, is introduced. And how is he introduced? The 14th verse, Tata Svetar Hayar Yukte Mahati Chandane Sthito Madhavaha Pandavas Chaiva Divyo Sankho Pradhat Mathu. So it's a beautiful description. When the first time the Lord is being introduced. And how is he introduced? Tata Svetar Hayar Yukte. Hayar Yukte, this horses that you are seeing in this are white. Tata Svetar Hayar Yukte. It's a beautiful chariot given by the Agni Dev, and seated in the chariot is Arjuna, who's also very beautiful, and Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Tata Svetar Hayar Yukte Mahati Sandane Sthito Madhava Pandavas Chaiva Divyo Sankho Pradhat Mathu. Seated on their chariot, they blew their respective concerts. This is what was the previous verse, and the word used there for Krishna, the first word, actually Krishna is being addressed with different names. Madhava. Madhava means the husband of the goddess of fortune. So wherever Krishna is present, there is victory. You might have heard about this book, which is written by Hrishikesha, called You Can Win. Anybody has heard of this? Quite popular, actually. If you search for this title, You Can Win, you can get that verse, which the book written by Hrishikesha. But that says you can win. But actually here, if you read this Bhagavad Gita, and the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Krishna gives this assertion, Krishna gives this affirmation that wherever Krishna is present, wherever Arjuna is present, there is always victory. There is always victory. There is opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. You will win. It is not you can. You will win if you are in the side of Krishna. And this verse that we spoke today is talking about the conchshells blown by Krishna and Arjuna. And they are addressed by different names. The names which are used here for Krishna are Hrishikesha. It's a very important word. We sometimes have some friends, relatives, acquaintances whose names might be Hrishikesha, but we really don't know what exactly this name means. And Krishna Prabhupada is explaining in this purport, Hrishikesha means who's the controller or the director of our senses. And we will see this a little later. What does this mean and why it is so important? And the conchshell that he is blowing is called Panchajanya. Panchajanya is the name of the conchshell of Krishna. Sometimes people ask this question, what is the name of the conchshell of Krishna? Answer is Panchajanya. Devadattam Dhananjaya. Another name of Arjuna is Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya means who is actually the winner of wealth. When Yudhishthir Maharaj was performing the sacrifice, he needed a lot of wealth, and it was all fetched by Arjuna. So another name of Arjuna is Dhananjaya, and Dhananjaya is blowing his conchshell called Devadattam. Devadattam, it is given by Deva. Actually, the names of these characters, each of these names, they signify what that person is all about. For example, Dhritarashtra. Dhrita is to hold, and Rashtra is country or kingdom. So one who is obsessed to possess the kingdom at any cost, doesn't mind. There is no question of morality, there is no question of ethics, there is no question of right or wrong. At any cost, I want that. Dhritarashtra, obsessed with that. Duryodhana. Duryodhana is, who never takes the side of religiousness. Very, very selfish, very ambitious. Yudhishthira was fixed in the battle, and who's fixed in the battle of life, not just in the battlefield, always equipoised. So these names, so Hrishikesha is another name of Krishna, which is used here, beautiful names, and that means who's the controller of the senses. And see the beauty of the Vedic culture, even an inanimate object like conch shell has a name. Forget about, calves or cows and horses, they anyway had their names, but it was so personalized. Nowadays, usually, when we go for some systematic arrangement based on some software or some system, even people are given some numbers, some random numbers. We have Aadhaar card, we have social security number in the US, all are numbers. That's how we identify a person. But you see, the Vedic culture so advanced. They have names even for the inanimate objects, like the concepts. What to speak of, the horses or the cows and the calves and other things. So Panchajanyam Hrishikesham Devadattam Dhananjaya Pondram Dadmo Mahasankham Bhima Karma Brikodaraha. The name of consul of Bhima is Pondram. And another name of Bhima, which is used here, is called Brikodaraha. Bhima Karma Brikodaraha. Brikodara means who performs Herculean tasks and who is a voracious appetite, who can eat a lot. Not just eat and sleep, but he also has, who can perform Herculean tasks. So there is a Jataragni, which is there, the fire of digestion. And the fire of digestion helps one digest things. The Briko Udaraha. So the fire of digestion for Bhima was huge. You can just digest. So he had a voracious appetite. That's how he was a voracious eater. And he used to perform Herculean tasks. So he blew his concept. Pondram Dadmo Mahasankham. It's a terrific concept. Mahasankham. Bhima Karma Brikodara. You see this portion, this section that we are going to see, that we are going to read today, the verses that we are reading, and I'll read a few more verses, talks about the other different concepts which are used by the different other personalities in the side of the Pandavas. But interestingly, towards the end of the purport of this verse, Prabhupada is actually counting the signs of victory, which he is mentioning here. He is telling that on the other side, there were no such credits. Particular types of concepts blown by the different personalities on the sides of the Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. So when they Divyam Sankham Tatatmatu. So this concepts which are blown by Krishna and Arjuna are called Divyam, transcendental. So that's why Prabhupada is writing particular types of concepts blown by different personalities on the side of the Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits, nor the presence of Lord Krishna. So there was no such credits. When Bhishma blew his concerts, there was no such credit. Krishna, the Supreme Director, was not present in their side, nor that of the Goddess of Fortune, because Goddess of Fortune is always there where Krishna is present. So they were predestined to lose the battle, and that was the message announced by the sounds of the concerts. Okay. I'll just quickly read the subsequent verses, which talks about the concepts of different people. Ananda Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha Nakulaha Sadevascha Sudhosho Manipuspako Kasyascha Parameswasaha Sikhandicha Maharataha Drishtadyumna Viratascha Satyakischa Parajitaha Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvasaha Prithivipate Saubhadrascha Mahabahu Sankhan Dadmu Prathak Prathak. And that means King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadeva blew the Sughosha and Manipushpaka. The great archer, the king of Kasi, the great fighter Sikhandi, Dhrishtadyumna, Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and others, O king, such as the mighty son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. And in the purport, Prabhupada mentions, Sanjaya informed King Dhritarashtra very tactfully that this unwise policy of deceiving the sons of Pandu and endeavoring to enthrone his own sons on the seat of the kingdom was not very laudable. The signs already clearly indicated that the whole Kuru dynasty would be killed in that great battle, beginning with the grandsire Bhisma down to the grandsons like Abhimanyu and others, including kings from many states of the world. All were present there and all were doomed. The whole catastrophe was due to King Dhritarashtra because he encouraged the policy followed by his sons. And then Saghosha Dhatra Rashtranam Hridayani Vedarayat Navascha Prithivim Chaiva Tumulo Venunadayan. The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. When Bhisma and the others on the side of Duryodhana blew their respective conch shells, there was no heartbreaking on the part of the Pandavas. Such occurrences are not mentioned, but in this particular verse, it is mentioned that the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered by the sounds vibrated by the Pandavas' party. This is due to the Pandavas and their confidence in Lord Krishna. One who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of the greatest calamity. So we spoke about the different conch shells of different personalities who are blowing them. And we also saw the effects of blowing of these conch shells. This was uproarious and it shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Now, for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I want to draw all your attention. You see, I showed you this picture just to give you the context where, how it started, what's going on. This is the battle, it's the battlefield, and this beautiful chariot which is described in this particular verse. We don't know what's going to happen next, but we will see how Arjuna will ask Krishna to put the chariot in the midst of the two armies so that he can see who has come to fight. All these things is going to unfold. But right now we are just seeing the description of this beautiful chariot, and we also saw the blowing of the conch shells. Very interestingly, I want to, if you have some observation. These are the same pictures, but there is a slight difference in these two. If anybody wants to volunteer and say, what is the difference between these two?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a cropped picture, but one can see the flag on the chariot with Hanuman very clearly.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, so basically what you just mentioned is called general view and a specific view. So this is zoomed, right? Krishna and Arjuna, you can see them more closely. So when we are studying Bhagavad Gita also, we need to have a general understanding of what's going on, where we are, and we also need to see little specifically the verses that we chanted. How is it relevant to me in my own life? To do that, I'll come to this later. Leave this. I want all of you to pay attention to this particular, this 3-4 lines in the purport of the 15th verse, which we all chanted. Very, very interesting. Prabhupada brings some very important points, very relevant for all of us. So Prabhupada is saying the Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses. You see, sometimes we wonder that why my mind is so disturbed. And if we are thinking like that, or sometimes we feel, why I'm going through so much of anxieties? Why am I not able to control them? Why am I so miserable in life? And sometimes people go through some phases in life where they're depressed, They feel lonely, and more so when the outside world is having so many negative news, so many things which are not going as per our own understanding, as per our own plan. Then we get very bewildered, we get panicky, and we don't know what to do in that kind of a situation. Actually, if we pay attention to these few lines, Krishna reveals something which can give us tremendous confidence and can give us fearlessness, can give us hope in the midst of crisis. So Prabhupada is writing, the Lord situated in the hearts of all living entities directs their senses. Actually, we are not the director of our own senses. The Lord is the director of all our senses. If you don't know this and you want to understand this concept, this line pretty well, there are two verses. One is in the 15th chapter where Krishna says, Mamaivanso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manah sashthani indriyani prakriti sthani karsati. The word karsati, even if it is a Sanskrit word, the moment we hear, we can feel the tension, the anxiety, the miseries associated with that word. Prakriti sthani karsati. Mamaivanso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. We are eternally part and parcel of the Lord. Mamaivanso jiva loke, and we are amsa. We are amsa of that Supreme Lord. Mamaivanso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Manah shashthani indriyani, including our mind and the five senses. Manah shashthani indriyani, the six senses. Prakriti sthani karsati. Because we have forgotten our position and we are thinking this place is a place of is our eternal place of abode, and I'm going to live here eternally, and I make all endeavors, attempts possible with all the resources that I have to live happily. That prakriti sthani karsati, that I'm struggling in this material world. We have got nothing to do with this body. It is just a covering, and this is the beginning, the ABCD of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna will elucidate and explain this point in the second chapter, where it says we're actually spirit, soul, part and parcel of Krishna. So we ourselves are part and parcel of Krishna. Then what to speak of our senses? The senses are anyway part of us. And the senses, that's why he's telling here, Krishna is the director of the senses. Even sometimes, people, when they have so much of false ego or pride, that I am doing everything. Why do I need Krishna? Where is the need for having the Lord in my life? In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse which comes, very interesting verse. It says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi sasi suraya pranava sarva vedeshu sabda ke paurusham nishu. Ke paurusham nishu. Nishu is the ability, the human beings, Nrishu, Nara. So Nrishu, it is the 7th plural of the Nara Dhatu, Nara Sabda. And Nrishu Paurusam, the ability in human being is also coming from the Lord. So actually, in no way we are independent. We are completely dependent on the Lord. And he is telling here the Lord situated in the hearts of all living entities directs their senses. But he directs, important thing, this next line where Prabhupada qualifies, how does he direct? Does he direct somebody who's doing bad things? So the Lord is directing him to do things, whatever he is doing? No. He directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity. And in the case of a pure devotee, he directly controls the senses. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name of Hrishikesha. I want to leave you with these 3 points for your reference from this class, which might help you. And these 3 points are the first thing that from this purport, which I just highlighted to you. First thing which we read is Krishna is the director of our senses. Krishna is the director of our senses. Now, what does this mean? This is a very interesting thing to know. Prabhupada is writing, Krishna is the director of the senses. Sorry. Can you see my screen? So this is the beauty of Krishna's mercy on a devotee. So Krishna is the director. Now, if somebody thinks if Krishna is the director and if we are the actors, that means surely we have some say in our lives, right? It is not that we are completely dependent because we are actors and we have some say. But actually our acharyas and Prabhupada tells that when a director directs an actor, the actor has no say. If he does not have any say and just listens to the director, then the film will be very successful. But when the actor thinks that he is the director and starts directing the picture, also means he starts thinking himself to be the director, then he's mistaken. The film will be a failure. But if we really act our roles according to what Krishna wants us to be, then he becomes supreme director and we become great actors. We get all the awards and all the adoration of the public, and Krishna gives all these great devotees who follow his direction full glory. Like we saw here, Prabhupada is writing, Arjuna followed Krishna and he became glorified. And the main reason, that he became the main reason or the main person who is credited with this victory, right? So similarly, in our lives also, when we follow the directions, when we follow the instructions of Krishna, we become victorious, we become glorious, because he is the director of our senses, he is the source of our ability, and we are eternally part and parcel of him. So when we do that, our life becomes completely different. This is the first point in this thing. Then Krishna is the owner and controller of our senses. First was director, now Prabhupada says Krishna is the owner and controller of our senses. When we submit to the ownership by Krishna, then we actually submit to his direction. And the moment one is directed by Krishna, then Bhagavad Gita tells us that one who allows himself to be directed by the Lord is also protected by the Lord. This is the beauty of understanding the word Hrishikesha. When one understands that Krishna is Hrishikesha, then one submits his senses at the lotus feet of Krishna. And when he submits it to Krishna, Krishna takes full ownership of the senses. And from that ownership, he gives direction on how our senses should move. Because we are trying to engage our senses in the service of Krishna, then Krishna obtains full control over our senses, and that means we go on automatic mode, remote control. Sometimes, when the flight is going, like even sometimes in the cars, we have this cruise or in an autopilot mode, right? You can just put it in that particular speed. You've given control to that thing. The pilot, even in the flight also, the moment the pilot switches from auto mode to a manual mode, then he has so much tension because everything is dependent on him and he has to maneuver very carefully. The devotees are very smart. They prefer the autopilot as compared to the manual pilot. So why to fly the plane manually when we can fly on an autopilot and go to sleep? That's much better. So just trying to engage our senses in Krishna's service, Krishna takes control, and then things change. And the last one in this purport that we read, that I highlighted, from Krishna's direction and control comes the protection. So when we understand that Krishna is the controller of our senses, then we also come to understand that from the direction given by Krishna comes the full protection. Our senses will become completely protected by the auspiciousness of Krishna and his pure devotees. That is the beauty and secret of devotional service. Sometimes we ask ourselves how to control our senses because it is turbulent, it is so wild, but it is difficult to control our senses. But if we allow and submit to Krishna in our heart and in our life, saying, Krishna, you own my senses, they are yours. Let me use them in your service. That is why we pray. I don't know if you know this, but in my childhood days, we used to pray this one Sanskrit sloka, maybe not so popular. Prataha praboditaha Vishnu Hrishikeshena yattvaya yad yad karaya sishana tat karomi tavagyaya. So this verse actually it means, oh Vishnu, prataha praboditoho Vishnu Hrishikeshena yattvaya. O Ishana, O Vishnu, O Hrishikesha, you have awakened me. This is the morning prayer. You have awakened me, and now I am ready to do whatever you wish. The moment we say that, Krishna takes over our life and senses, and he directs our senses in such a way that we can go to Krishna conscious programs and become very peaceful. The Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita tells us that the real way to control our senses is to hold on tightly to the lotus feet of Krishna and very tightly to the lotus feet of devotees. If we do not do that, we have to hold on to the feet of Maya. And the nature of Maya is to disturb us. The nature of, actually, if we understand the material world, the nature of material world, we will understand the importance of taking shelter of Krishna. The material world is meant to give anxieties, tension. That's why the word used to describe material world in Bhagavad Gita is called Dukkhalayam, the place of miseries. Alaya is a house, storehouse. Dukkhalayam asaswatam, and this is temporary. So if we don't engage our senses in service of Krishna, then we are forcibly, engaged in the service of Maya. It's taken over. So whenever our senses agitate us or disturb us, we must automatically remember that Hrishikesha is the owner of our senses. Why are we unnecessarily wasting our time, allowing our senses to become agitated, when they should be used in the service of Krishna? And believe me, true enough, when you use it for Krishna without any separate endeavor, the senses will become controlled. So I want to just leave you with this one slide, which I didn't talk about at the beginning. I put this slide just to give you, how you can appreciate this word, this wonderful Bhagavad Gita as it is written by Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes, people try to read different verses, memorize things, and do some, quote here and there. Actually, that kind of a study is not a very systematic study. If you see these pictures, maybe I thought, Kalakanta Prabhu himself, being a doctor, might have given you some understanding about this. You see, there is a human body, the first picture. Then you can see the structure, the skeletal system. Then you can see the nervous system. Then you can see some digestive system, muscular system, and circulatory system. So like that, Bhagavad Gita, when we read the first time, when we study it, is just some general information we're trying to gather. But then we see that there is a structure to this, the dialogue that is happening between Krishna and Arjuna. It is not haphazard, and it is not whimsical. It is not some, it's a very structured. There are specific questions asked, and the questions asked in our life are so important. The quality of questions that we ask defines the quality of lives. Usually, if you search, I was doing a search sometime back in Google. What are the top 5 asked questions in Google? What are people trying to find out? If you do that search, I don't remember all the 5 right now, but it was something like weight loss. What is the time right now? What are the restaurants near me? Those are some of the questions. But look at the questions asked by Arjuna in this whole series of dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Profound questions, very deep. The moment we ask some questions which are profound and deep, the answers can transform our lives. If we are just satisfied with all those basic, superficial, on the surface level questions, answers also are like that. So there is a general information, there is a structure, there is a sequence. There is a sequence in which Krishna takes Arjuna through this path. There are certain themes and there are certain angles of vision. You can see it from different angles and see and understand and appreciate. Then Bhagavad Gita becomes very relishable in life. Life becomes alive in us. I'll stop here and I'll see. I think we have the next program is chanting. So I'll hand over to the Kalakanta.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that enlightening talk on different angles of vision of trying to understand Hrishikesh. I'm sure after this one round of chanting, we will revert back with some questions that our devotees may have. So I request you to kindly stay on as we go through this one round. So, yes, as we have been chanting, please join me as in beginning with the Panchatattva mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Now let us chant 108 times in sync with Prabhupada's Hare Krishna mantra. Here we go.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
So that was 108 times chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. So if there are any questions, if anybody would like to have, we have the Association of Sadananda Prabhu. So Prabhu will be very happy to take any questions. Please feel free to take this opportunity to ask any questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I ask a question?
Yes, please, Mataji.
You said that Krishna is our director. If we keep it that way, then we don't have to act or we don't have to say the words. It's all good when I'm on my own and then I can listen my God and I know what is right and wrong. But when I'm in the company of outsider or outside, it is very difficult to hear at that time the voice of director. And that how you can achieve or ignite that voice inside, that is difficult.
I agree with you, Mataji. You see, one of the very important angas of our devotional life, of our spiritual life, is to always remain in association with devotees. Practicing the instructions of Krishna becomes easy when we are in association with devotees. I don't know if you are aware of one very small book written by one of our previous acharyas, by the Rupa Goswami. It's called Nectar of Instruction. Nectar means Amrita, and instruction says Upadesha. Upadesha, Amrita. So many instructions are there. What is the essence? What is the nectar of those? And he has summarized the entire Vedic scriptures, all those instructions in 11 verses. In that 11 verses, twice he is mentioning about association. Twice. You have to give up this material association, materialistic people's association, and you have to have association with the devotees. Sato Vratte, Sadhu Sangha. Twice he mentions. Imagine the importance of this in our day-to-day life. Having said that, somebody may say that, well, I'm living in a material world. I have to interact with the people. It is not that I can just shun them away. Nobody is saying actually to do that. Association means opening your heart out and sharing your feelings with someone and getting influenced by them. Now that part we have to be careful. We have to guard our those inner feelings, and that we should open up only in front of the devotees. And in association of devotees, we get that strength to practice. And when we do that, life becomes blissful. Does that help, Mathis?
Yeah, it helps, but it is difficult. I mean, sometimes I become Jagrat and I see, but then many times I fall, and like you say, living in material world, it's good to be with the so devotees and all the time, but it's not possible. So sometimes, it's just that Jagrat Avastha is just need to be there, and it's difficult. So
yeah, I when I say devotee association, you need not be 24 hours in association of devotees. You can fill your life, like, Prabhupada very expertly had filled our days with Krishna conscious activities. Like morning, before you go to your work, if you have a morning sadhana program where you get up and do some Mangala Arati, chant the names of the Lord, hear something about Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, then you go out, then you are more protected. Right? If you go, you don't do any of those things and you go and interact with the materialistic people, then you are vulnerable, because our own mind is turbulent, dridhavat. So all these adjectives are used by Krishna. And then when we go, it's very easy to get carried away, because there are so many temptations and alluring things and so many things which can just sweep us away. So that is why a sadhaka has to be very careful and has to be more regulated and disciplined to have the regular morning program before he goes out for his work. And then when he comes back, again, you can spend some time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in reading these verses of Bhagavad Gita. You will be protected. So you don't need exactly like the 24 hours a day that you need to be in association of devotees. But if you do this, I'm sure it will protect you and your consciousness.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
I'm so thankful to you for bringing out the significance and the adjectives that you mentioned for Arjuna, more than even Krishna. And it often strikes me, because when I read the Bhagavad Gita, I'm often asking a question in my mind, and before I complete the question, Arjuna has asked that in the next verse. So it's extremely relatable, and I feel Arjuna is among the best journalists that we can have to be asking the most relevant questions. But my question is, how did Lord Krishna identify the pureness of the devotion that Arjuna had towards Krishna? For example, in the events that we saw in the Mahabharata, Arjuna, there is no reference to Arjuna chanting the holy names or listening to Krishna Katha, or even knowing Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So how did Lord Krishna identify? Are there any events or many events of him being able to identify that complete surrender from Arjuna?
Very interesting question. Prabhupada mentioned some of the qualities of Arjuna, which is there in Bhagavad Gita in different verses. One is Anagha, he is sinless. One is Anasuyave, who is free from enviousness. So these are like that. There are many more. Bhakto Sime Sakha Cheti. So he's a devotee as well as a friend of Krishna. Now your question is like, Yudhishthira probably is more qualified in that way, because he was also sinless. He was also free from envy. He is Ajata Satru. He didn't have any enemies. Why not Yudhishthira? I don't know if there are specific incidences I can count, but I'm sure there will be. But I would rather put it in, it's a will of providence. It's an arrangement by the Lord, where he chose Arjuna, who may not be the best amongst the Pandavas in terms of those qualities of the virtues that we are looking at. Maybe Yudhishthira will have more virtues, but Arjuna is chosen, is selected. The reason being, there is a greater identification with Arjuna by all of us. Had it been Yudhishthira, we would have felt, oh, he's so virtuous. Unless you are virtuous, this message, this is irrelevant. I mean, you just can't access this information, these instructions. Arjuna is a grahastha. He's not a sannyasi. He wanted to go to the forest. He didn't want to fight. He was saying that this violence is uncalled for. Why this gory warfare? What is the need? So if you see all the characteristics which Arjuna exhibits before Krishna begins to speak are very relatable. And it gives us this hope, or it gives us this belief that if Arjuna could get benefited and directed by Krishna despite having those problems and difficulties and the doubts, I can also become a recipient of Krishna's mercy. I can also become better directed in my life. So I would say it is Krishna's arrangement, because Arjuna anyway is an eternal associate of Krishna, including all the Pandavas. The reason Arjuna was chosen and not probably Yudhishthira, might have been more virtuous, is it gives us hope, and it gives us this sense of identity with him. There is an inner Arjuna within us which can be rekindled by this instructions of Krishna. That's what I mean. Does that help?
Yes, very much so, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Krishna is controller as well as director of human senses. What method, step-by-step guide I can follow to serve Krishna with my senses in a day-to-day life, and how I can contact with you? Okay. Contacting with me is not very difficult. It's easy. I can share my email ID and contact, but I'm sure Kalakanta Prabhu is there and can be able to address your needs. But the first question that you've asked is, director of human senses, what method, step-by-step guide I can follow to serve Krishna with my senses in day-to-day life? It's a very good question. And interestingly, in Kali Yuga, even though there are so many distractions, so many problems, so many challenges, and we are all products of Kali Yuga. And if you see the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, you'll find there are a lot of descriptions of material world, because we are situated right in the middle of this material world, being tossed by different waves and tides, and we struggle how to maintain our sanity in the midst of all these chaotic situations. That is why, seeing our precarious condition in this present age, Krishna has simplified and has given this wonderful method which all of us, wherever we are, we must follow. This chanting of the names of the Lord. Wonderful. And it's actually deceptively simple. Sometimes people say, really? Hare Krishna Mahamantra can do this? Yes, it can. It can actually, when we are chanting the names of the Lord, we are directly associating with the Lord. There is no other cleansing agent which is available which can cleanse the pride, the envy, the anger, the lust, the greed, which are deep-rooted within our hearts. And we serve them unknowingly, unwantedly. We really don't want, but we are forced to serve them. But when we chant the names of the Lord, fixed number of times every day, Prabhupada says minimum 16 number of rounds, but whatever, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, if you're able to do this regularly, like daily bath is required. If you have taken bath yesterday and you say, I'll not take bath today, what will happen? If you continue doing that, you'll start stinking. First, you will notice yourself, then other people also will notice. Same thing holds true for spiritual life also. When we don't do that regularly, systematically every day, then the material vasanas, the material things become overpowering on us, and we get victimized by them. So to step by step, to start with, first thing that you need to do is decide a certain number of rounds, chant them in a particular place in a particular time. A place and time in a particular place in a particular time has a specific significance, because the thing which we do in a particular time every day becomes our habit. So like we get up in the morning and I don't think much, I have to go and brush my teeth. I don't, okay, I've got up today, let's say I'll do something else. I'll go take some, go to the office, do some work, and then come back. Maybe in the lunchtime, I'll brush my teeth. We don't do that. So when you do a particular thing repeatedly at a particular time and in a particular place, let's say you sit in one place and you chant, it becomes habit. The habit formation becomes easy, and then it is easily, you can repeat it regularly. So first thing is to chant. identify a place, a time when you are not disturbed, when you are relatively quiet, the mind is unagitated. Sit and chant the names of the Lord. And the very important thing is to hear the posture, the right posture, the pronunciation. And if you have a prayerful mood, because Prabhupada says that our chanting should be like a baby's cry, the helpless cry of a baby to his or her mother. The mother responds to the cry based on the intensity. If the baby is crying just for the sake of crying, the mother also will not pay attention. Today is Mother's Day. I'm just reminded of this. And if we chant prayerfully, reverentially, and pronounce each words properly with the right posture, then it automatically attracts the mercy of Krishna. Do that first. Then the one more thing which is very simple and easy to follow is offer the food to the Lord and take it as prasadam. It has so powerful effects on our consciousness, because what we eat, that we are. So when we eat prasadam, you're asking me step by step. So you start chanting, then you take prasadam. Grossly it purifies, and subtly also it purifies. Then there are other things, like you can spend some time in understanding and reading, discussing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, have some deities and do some worship. There are many such things. But I would say the first few things will be how you can chant regularly every day, and how you can take Krishna prasadam. These two things are very, very powerful. I hope that helps, Ashish. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
I think you said that Krishna is director and controller, but it depends on how much we are surrendered to him. Does that mean someone who's not surrendered, then he's not under any control? Okay, it's a good question. So someone who's not surrendered, what happens in his life? Right. So it's a very relevant question in our life, because many of us don't feel the need, don't even know. Okay, somebody who's understanding the instruction, who's following, he can take up to this path. What about someone who's not surrendered, or who doesn't know? Krishna still maintains him. Krishna still takes care of all his needs. But what happens is, every one of us, we have got this tiny independent freedom and the faculty of having desires. So what we desire, we always desire to remain independent of Krishna. We think we can enjoy independently. What it does is it puts us in the cycle of birth and death. And it is a very complicated mess of birth and death. As long as we are desiring to remain independent, Krishna is still sanctioning that. As Upadrashta and Anumanta, as Paramatma who's seated in our heart. But what we are doing is we are elongating our existence. We are elongating our existence in this complicated cycle of birth and death, which is miserable. Accepting another body, punarapi janama, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare sayana. Again entering into the womb of mother and accepting another body and continuing this struggle of material existence. So does that help, Vijayji, or you have a follow-up question on that?
Thank you. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jai Shri Krishna. I have a question. How do you know, like Arjuna was on the side of Dharma and Durajan was on the side of Adharma, and in our lives we meet people that are right to us and some people that are unright to us, but everybody has a different perception of righteousness and Dharma. So how do we know what is right to us? Because what we think is Dharma, other people think is not.
Good question. It's a relative thing in that way. If I'm thinking this is Dharma, somebody who's not following that and he has his own sets of do's and don'ts, and he says that this is Dharma, then how do we come to a common understanding? The very simple definition that we need to know is the word Dharma is given in Bhagavatam, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. It is not manufactured by human being. You can't manufacture your own Dharma. I can't manufacture my own Dharma. Today I felt, okay, this is Dharma. And sometimes, people, the word dharma is so misused and misunderstood in our common parlance. We usually associate it with some belief. So today I'm a Christian, and tomorrow something happens, I become a Muslim. Or tomorrow I change to Hinduism because it looks all encompassing. There's a lot of freedom, and probably that's what I should do. So that dharma, actually the dharma that it is referring to is some kind of belief, but it is not. The scriptures tell us that dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma, or our occupational duty, is something which is decided or given by the Lord himself. He has given this. And so when it comes to following, there is a chapter which will come in Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a wonderful book, and I'm so happy that you all are joining in this session to understand this and apply it in your lives. There is a chapter in Bhagavad Gita, which is the 16th chapter, which is called Divine and Demoniac Nature. So there is a divine nature within us, and there is a demoniac nature within us, and there is always a fight. There's always a tussle. In that chapter, Krishna says, Yasastra vidyam utsrajya vartate kama karataha nasasiddhim avapnoti nasantim na paramgati. So Yasastra vidyam, there are people who are acting, who are working, all of us, before coming in touch with Krishna consciousness, we had no idea, no understanding of what a life of what spirituality is all about. We're not. Maybe we used to go to some temple and do at the max some puja on our special days, but it was all limited to that. But the idea of dharma is which inseparable. This is what defines you. And Krishna says, Yas sastra vidhim utsrajya vartate kama karata. If somebody is acting against the injunctions of the scriptures, nasasiddhim avapnoti nasantim na paramgati. He'll never achieve any perfection. Na santim na paramgati, not the highest destination. So in a nutshell, dharma is set of guidelines given by the Lord himself, available to us in the form of scriptures. And when we follow that means we are following the religious path. There is no question of subjectivity in this. It's very objective. And these are very specific things which are given. When we follow that, that's following dharma. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you. Jai Shri Krishna.
Can you let us know from where the morning words that you recited before the end of the presentation comes from? I don't know. When I can share that, I can type it here, but I don't know the reference. I have no idea, because I used to just chant when we were children.
Does anybody else have any more questions?
Prabhuji, I had one question.
Yeah, please go. Yes, please.
You just mentioned about dharma, and where you said the scriptures has clearly mentioned what the dharma is. So where is it this exactly? We can view this. Where is it written? Which scripture are you talking about in particular?
This is Bhagavatam. Actually, it's a very interesting conversation which happens between Yamadutas and Vishnudutas. In relation to one particular case by name Ajamila, who committed a lot of sinful activities, but towards the end of his life, he just chanted the name of the Lord, Narayana. And by chanting that name of the Lord, when he chanted that, he was about to die. He was on the verge of his death. He was on the deathbed. So just before his death, there were three very fierce, scary looking people who were present to take the soul away from his body. And with utter helplessness, seeing their ferocious, fearsome features, he just called out Narayana, not to the Lord Narayana, to his own son. But just that utterance of the word Narayana, Narayana, 4 syllables, the 4 Vishnudutas arrived there. Celestial, divine, beautiful, 4-handed, dazzling, effulgent, bright. And there is a conversation which happens between this Yamadutas and Vishnudutas. Yamadutas told, we have never in our life been stopped by anybody in our previous things. We are actually the messenger of the god of death. and we don't do any wrong. So, but somehow, they were driven away by this. There's a conversation which happens, and these Yamadutas go, and they go to Yamaraj, saying that how this is that, somebody has stopped us. And then they ask this question, what is the way? What is dharma? In answer to that, Yamaraj mentions to them, dharman tu sakshat bhagavat pranita. So it comes in Bhagavatam. I don't have the exact verse number, but I can share it later.
Okay.
Jai Shri Krishna, I have one more question. So the story that they shared last week was similar to what you said about someone that committed a lot of sins, and then at the end he shouted Narayan's name and God forgave him all his sins. Then a lot of people make a lot of mistakes or commit sins in their lives, and then at the end of the day they get away with it.
It's a great question. Actually, I remember there was once we were having this kind of a discussion with some young people. And, in our Sanskrit words, there is something called Mahajan. Mahajan is someone who's ideal. And we try to follow in the footsteps of Mahajan. So this one boy, he was telling me that actually for me, Ajamil is the Mahajan because he had the best of both the worlds. He enjoyed the material world, committed whatever he wanted to do. And then towards the end, he just told Narayana and just got away with it. So let me do whatever I want to, who cares? And then towards the end, I'll remember Lord and then I'll go. Not true. I would say Ajamil is one of the greatest exception. Krishna can change the rule, can bend it for someone like this if he has some mercy. Of course, we need to see the background of Narayana, of Ajamila also, that Ajamila was a Naishtika Brahmachari. He was doing this, all following this rules and regulations, and was engaged in devotional service for 25 years of his life. That's how he got the good intelligence to give his son the name Narayana, so that he could call him. That is there. But the more important thing, the attitude that we should have, we should not always be thinking to be an exception in cases, right? We are writing an exam, something happens, we have not done well. There could be some kind of exception, and we may get some grace and we can get out of it. But that's not what our motive should be. Our motive should be how I should study well so that I can pass the exam. Our ideal should be Kulashekar Alvar. So there was a great devotee who comes in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, and he was a king, and he was an Alvar. So he says that he prays to the Lord that, oh Lord, please take life right now, because right now my body, my sense, my mind are all in my control. Who knows when the time of reckoning, when the time of death comes, when our senses are not in control, when my mind is not in control, when I'm not able to even speak properly, how will I remember to chant your name? You see the difference? Exalted devotee, not like us wavering here and there, fixed in his devotional service. He is praying to the Lord, please take me now, so that my mind gets shelter in the lotus feet of yours. Lotus, actually, if you know this, something called swan song, the last work of a person, like the last writing or the singing of somebody, of a great writer or poet, is called swan song, the last thing. So the swans, actually, they put their neck in the stem of lotus and they sing beautifully and they leave their body. So he's saying, let my mind like swan take shelter of the lotus feet of yours, the feet of yours, which is like lotus, let it take shelter now. And let me remember you, because my consciousness, my mind, everything is in my control right now. Who knows what's going to happen when I'm going to die. That should be our inspiration. That should be our motive. Actually, we should practice doing this every day, so that there is a hope. There is a hope that I will be able to chant at my final moment. Otherwise, it's a very precarious situation. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you, Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much for your enlightening words, auspicious words. sharing the wonderful insight from these verses from the first chapter, and also all these questions that our devotees have asked. Looking forward to have you again soon in these sessions. So Prabhu is here. Somehow I was is actually just like we are trying to establish IHF London. So since many years back, Prabhu from Bangalore had been to Boston, and he has established the IHF Boston chapter, and he had come here for some service here to Bangalore. Then I thought this is a very nice opportunity that we should all take Prabhu's association. So thank you very much once again, Prabhu, for joining.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for inviting and allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Yes. Request, I think we have devotees, few announcements for all of you. I had mentioned about a small orientation meeting for devotees or volunteers of this.
Prabhu, I'll drop off.
Yes, please. Yes. Yes. So those of you who are part of who are volunteering for these two clubs, you can stay back, and others, if you'd like to leave, you can carry on. So we will look forward to meet again next week. We'll continue from where we stopped, from these verses from the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll just wait. So this was, I guess, yes, everybody else is here. We can. So I think one of the questions was about, in the beginning we had a question on how we can continuously stay connected with the Lord, and there was another question on how we can put these instructions in our day-to-day life. So, and we heard from Prabhu on how we can actually put this into practice by associating more with devotees, by having a sadhana program in place. So these are all the principles behind why we want to start these two clubs, the Club 108 and the Club Tattva. Is a platform for helping the devotees in our online community and also ourselves, so that we can have a regular practice and provide the required support system to have this regular practice. So very thankful to all the volunteers who have come forward to render your services, and happy to share with all of you on some of the thoughts from the Gita on what Krishna says about rendering service to him. You are all coming forward to render your services to help the community as well as ourselves, and this is something Krishna shares. Krishna says that, I think I had mentioned this sometime earlier also in one of the earlier beginning sessions. Anybody, maybe let me share the screen. Yes. So this is towards the end of the Gita's instructions. This is in the 18th chapter. Krishna is saying, Ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshu abhidhasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mame vaishyati asamshayah. Krishna is saying, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotion service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. If we can facilitate and help in some or the one or the other way, we can help another person take up devotion service by encouraging them to chant the holy names of the Lord, hear Krishna Katha. All of these are very, very potent processes by which one's dormant Krishna consciousness can be awakened. And Krishna is saying, if somebody explains the supreme secret, what is the supreme secret? The supreme secret is about what Krishna spoke in the entire Gita till now. This is the concluding verses on how to surrender to Krishna, how to become Krishna conscious. If somebody explains this to others, somebody helps others to come closer to appreciating these principles, Krishna is assuring you that to such a devotee who endeavors in this direction, Krishna is assuring devotional service is guaranteed. Bhaktim mai param kritva ma me eshyati asamshayah. And at the end, he will come back to me. You see, this is Krishna's words. Anybody who renders service for Krishna's cause, Krishna's mission, Krishna is saying, assuring that such a person, he will come back to me. And further, Krishna is saying, Nacha tasman manishyeshu kaschin me priyakrittamaha bhavita nacha me tasman anyaha priyataro bhuvi. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So if we want to become dear to Krishna, recognized by Krishna, win Krishna's affection, then the easiest way to do that is by sharing and spreading his message. So these are all the words spoken by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. So we can all take great satisfaction in Krishna's promise to devotees who are coming forward, volunteering their time, their energy, and helping to push on this Krishna consciousness movement. So, to share some details on how we are planning to go about this. Now, for the first week that is starting from tomorrow, morning and evening. Morning, we thought based on what we saw where the preferences that were shared, we felt it is appropriate to go with the timing 7 to 7:15. So Club 108 will meet 7 to 7:15, and Club Tattva will meet 8:45 to 9:05. So for first week, for the first week, Radhika Mataji, who is coordinating both the clubs, so Mataji will conduct both the sessions. And then during that time, so you will also get to know the format of conducting these meetings. And then during that time, she will also invite for all of you to give your availability with respect to what we are thinking is, we'll the next 1 month, we will divide it into week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And then you can, in the group, so you'll be able to, and then in the group you can share which week is convenient for you. Say week 1, Monday to Friday, week 2, Monday to Friday, week 3, Monday to Friday. And then you can, accordingly, you can convey what is your availability. Somebody wants to do more than 1 week, that is also fine. And then we will make a rooster in place so that everybody is clear about when their turn is to conduct the meeting. And the details on the Zoom link, we have created a Zoom link, and those and we'll be sharing with the Gita for Life group by end of the day. What is a link which they have to click to join the meetings? So those are details. Mataji will be sharing that, and for you to host the meeting, the credentials, the user ID and password, so that you log in as the host. So those things also will be shared in those volunteer groups. So this is how we want to get started. And some thoughts are, as you are you can feel free to invite your loved ones, your family, friends who may not be part of Gita for Life, but they can join and they can hear you when you are leading these meetings. They will benefit in that way. At least they will come to be with you when you are hosting the programs, you are conducting the meetings, either be it chanting or be it the reading in the evening. And there are also plans so that we can incentivize the participation. Say if we have people who are attending on a regular basis, then we can recognize their regularity. And we are having plans to conduct quiz maybe once in every 2 weeks for the reading session. So to whatever extent we're going to cover, we want to start with Krishna book, which will have all the details of advent of Krishna, how Krishna grew up in Gokul, then in Vrindavan, and then how he went to Mathura, how he went to Dwaraka. So there is a book written by Swami Prabhupada called the Krishna book. These are all short stories. There are about 89 of them. It's a very wonderful narration of Krishna's pastimes from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we want to start with that, and then have a quiz so that people can participate. It becomes more. So these are all some, and then we will recognize the people who have done well in the quiz in our weekly Sunday meetings. So they're looking at some ways of incentivizing people's interest so that they will look forward to join. And if you have any ideas to share, as you see the sessions are starting tomorrow, and as they keep moving forward, any ideas you have on how we can make this more interesting, or there are any suggestions, please feel free to share. We're more than happy to hear from you. Either you can put it across to Mataji or to myself, whichever way is convenient for you. So these are some of the thoughts. Radhika, Mataji, would you like to share something on the clubs that we are starting tomorrow? You have any thoughts, anything to add?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. I just thought that for everybody's convenience, logistically, we can have just one Zoom link. I will be sharing the Gmail ID and the password with which you can, all volunteers who are going to be hosting these sessions can log in and start the meeting on your own. And it can be just one meeting so that it's not confusing, one link, and we can share that, we can remember that, enter the ID if we don't have the link, just for convenience. I'm myself waiting for a training session of sorts from Kalakanta Prabhuji. Once that is there, hopefully I'll be able to run these sessions from tomorrow, and hope I don't make too many mistakes. And yeah, I think we should start treating tomorrow's sessions, tomorrow onwards, the first few weeks, as some sort of an experiment, so we can learn from whatever is not working well, from user point of view as well as from volunteer point of view, and then we could get better.
Yes, and so as a support, we have Ragini Mataji from Vellore, which is in the state of Tamil Nadu. She's joining us, and she's part of these meetings. So she is helping with respect to making the quiz content for these sessions, so that we can come up with a suitable format at the end of an appropriate time. We are thinking of 2 weeks, if that works out. So we have more devotees who are part of this team. Anything anybody would like to clarify, would like to share, any questions you have, please feel free.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dilip here.
Yes, Dilip.
Prabhu, during that reading session, if devotees have some doubts, I mean, while reading the books, will that be clarified the same time, or is it like?
If they have any doubts, yeah, somebody was saying something. Okay, if they have any doubts, if you are able to address the question, that's well and good. If you do not know, then you can tell the participant that I have noted, and then let me discuss, and I will get back to you. You can tell them, and then you can feel free to discuss with me, and I will try to help you with the appropriate answer. So we can try that. That's something that we can do. Is that okay? You try if you can. You try if you can answer. If you're not able to answer, then let's be honest with them. Tell them that let me discuss, and then I'll get back to you.
Or Prabhu, we should just keep it like reading the book, and then the doubts can be noted down and can be clarified at the weekend by you.
Yeah. So, in fact, yeah, we can do both the ways. I mean, you can clarify after discussing with me in the sessions on a later session, or we could have a common meeting where the questions are all compiled together, and then we have a common meeting with everybody, wherein I can try to address them. So I'm open for both. Maybe I would. Let's see how it comes up, and then we can take a call on that.
Jai Shri Krishna. Which book is it?
You have that book with you, Mataji. It's a Krishna book.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna.
And it's 20 minutes.
20
so we will be sharing all the from where to access the book if you don't have a hard copy with you. So there are options of reading it online. You can share the screen and read. So this book is available online for free. Anybody can read. So all of these things, details, the Mataji will share with all of you on how the reading can happen. If you have in fact, it is helpful that we will have a format wherein when the reading is happening, all the participants should also be able to see the lines. Because it is, if you have a book and you're reading in the book, and for them, if they are only able to hear your audio, it may not be sufficient to hold their attention. If you have also a visual for them to also see the paragraph, see the lines that are being read out, so that is even more helpful. So we'll have those things in place. And if you have, and personally, if you would like to prepare for the reading, you can read in advance for yourself, and then you can share that with them when you are reading. So you will be more familiar with the subject, with the content, and it will help you to voice modulate. So you can definitely put in your efforts in that direction. That helps.
I just had something to add, Prabhuji. I'm myself a beginner, and I'm also only learning, and I'm waiting for a training session from Prabhuji. If anybody is feeling a bit nervous about how to operate Zoom, how to be how to share screen, or will I be okay? I think I'm on the same bridge. I think we will learn as we go. And if you have any doubts, you may please reach out, especially with regards to Zoom, as I understand that not all of us may be on the same platform on how to share screen, or how to increase the volume, or how to just unmute, simple things, tiny doubts. So along the way, we can always clarify our doubts, and we are all connected on a group. So just wanted to say, don't be intimidated by it, because I was initially, and I think Krishna will take us through this.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm quite confident on all the technical aspects of Zoom. Radhika Mataji will be able to troubleshoot the operations part of it. So yes, all support is available in that sense. Yeah.
Can I just say something, that we are all in a Krishna boat, so we are all together. So I'm sure we will be able to narrate ourselves or move ourselves from one end to another end. So we are all in the same boat. So I think it will be good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Actually, this is very nice. I mean, when we come together for service, there is a lot more. In fact, in one sense, more than helping the people who are going to join this and hear from the clubs, those who are part of this club are going to gain more, are going to benefit more by being a part of, because like I mentioned, I also shared these verses before in the beginning. As we are endeavoring to put our energies, put our time for service of Krishna, so much more purification is what is going to happen, and we will experience this in our life. And we are a close group, so there is an association, there is Sangha, there is Sadhu Sangha. So it is going to be a wonderful experience for everyone. That is something I'm very, very hopeful and looking forward to. Yes. So, if there are any more questions, we can take these questions, or else we can close for now, and then we can share in the group on the. In fact, by end of the day, we'll send a reminder about the morning club. So please do join, even if you are not part of the club 108, but whenever it is possible for you, please join the 108 club, and vice versa. Even if you may not be part of Club Tattva, but you are part of Club 108, please do join. It'll be very encouraging for the devotees when somebody's there. At the same time, it is important that we should be ready, even if nobody is there. When you are conducting the meeting, even if nobody is there, you should start the meeting because it is your offering to Krishna. It is your offering to Krishna. You should switch on the video. Everybody, either you are chanting 108 times or you are reading, I would request the volunteers to switch on the video, be present so that people can see you, and you conduct the meeting. If others are there, they will also benefit. If nobody is there, you are chanting and you are hearing, you will benefit. So there is no loss. There is no loss in the whole endeavor. So that way it is a win-win for whether persons are there or not there. We should be mentally prepared. In the beginning, we may expect more people. Later on, maybe people may come. We do not know how it comes up. And Krishna will see what has to happen. We are trying to make an arrangement. We want to encourage people to come together, chant with us, hear Krishna Katha, because that will help them to progress faster in their spiritual journey. So that is the whole idea. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Short message. So we look forward to meet you all again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Radhika Mataji, blessings.
Yeah, Radhika
Thank you. Thank you,
See you
Mataji.
tomorrow morning.
Thank you. See you all in the morning.
I will
Hare
bless you.
Krishna.
Thank you.